Hi, this is Miss Abby again from Church Anywhere, and I have another parenting tip. This one's a little tough for me. I'd like to talk to you today about helping your child deal with grief. And I know the reason that it's extra hard for me right now is because I just lost my own mother less than a month ago. And so I'm dealing with my own grief, but I wanted to do this segment while this is fresh in my mind and while I've been able to kind of see my own grandkids as they are processing things that are going on. I think the first thing I really want to stress is not to tell a child that a person who has passed away is just asleep. And I think this is very important because if you say they're asleep, which is obviously what they look like, that can give some real fear to a child. They may be afraid if they go to sleep they won't wake up, or if they see you sleeping that you're not going to wake up. So that can give you a whole new set of issues around bedtime if you just say they're sleeping. I know for my grandson, Grayson, he was all about what was going on. He's 4, and a lot of it has to do with the different ages of children. But at 4 years old, he wants to know everything. And when we were at the funeral home, he wanted to go up to the casket. He wanted to look, and he knew Grandma. He called her Grandma Lily. And he said, I thought you said Grandma Lily was in heaven. And so trying to process our belief that Grandma was in heaven, and yet he sees a body there in front of him. So being the little nature dude that he is, I thought, I'm going to tie this into something that's really fresh in his mind. And so all spring, he had been going around and picking up these ugly little cicada shells. I hope you can see that. And he just thought that was just the coolest thing. And we talked about, the fact that the cicada shell is all that you were finding, and that the cicadas then came out and left their shells behind, and they went on to live up in the treetops. And so I thought, I think that's something a 4-year-old can understand. So I told him that what he saw was just Grandma Lily's shell, like a cicada shell, and that everything that made Grandma Lily, all the good and the love and the spirit of her had gone on to heaven. And all that she had left behind was her shell, and that's what he was seeing. And so he understood that, and that made sense to him. That was okay. He still wanted to be very much involved, and he wanted to go up to the casket very, very often. His 6-year-old sister, Emerson, she didn't want any part of it. She didn't ever, to my knowledge, go up near the casket. She stayed back, and when I held her and was talking to her a little bit about it, I said, do you want to go up to the casket with me? And she said no. She said it's all fake. It all just looks too fake. And then she got down and went off and played with her little friends. Later, her emotions and her feelings came out in pictures. She would draw pictures of Grandma Lily. And she would say things like, I'm sad that I don't get to see Grandma Lily anymore, or go to Grandma Lily's house and play with her. So a lot of times emotions with children won't come out when you would expect them to. So also be prepared for that, and be ready to try to explain and to try to comfort when they are ready to process, because they're all ready at different stages and different levels. Another thing I learned from this is not to try to hide my feelings. And that's hard for me. I want to take care of everybody else. I want to make sure everybody else is okay and neglect my own feelings. And I couldn't. This was just something that I couldn't do. But I could reassure my own adult children and my grandchildren, my husband, my siblings, I'm okay. I'm just hurting. I'm sad. And it's okay to be sad. And we can be sad together. And I think that's one big comforting thing, is when you do have family, or when you do have loved ones around, that you can help grieve and help go through that process. But don't try to deny the fact that you're sad, or that you're having emotions or feelings. Sometimes you might even be angry. And those feelings are all okay. And know that the children are going to have those feelings too. and trying to say, oh, get over that, or oh, you shouldn't feel that way. You know, you can't tell somebody how they should or shouldn't feel. They feel. If they feel that way, then you need to help them process those feelings and work through those feelings. So another big thing that I learned was don't even try to hide your feelings. Something else that we did that I thought was very helpful and healing for the children, after the service, we took all of the flowers and arrangements and gifts and everything that people had so graciously given in honor of my mother, and we divided them up, but we tried to make sure that every person got something. And we started with the sibling, my dad, and then my siblings, and then the grandkids. And I tried to make sure that it was something that they wanted and something that was kind of permanent, that they could keep. And then after the grandkids, then the great-grandkids were able to pick. And pretty much what was left at that point were the fresh flowers. And they got so excited over that because they each got something to take home to remember Grandma Lily by. So they felt included, and you know, there's lots and lots of wonderful memories and lots of other things that we can give them and can help support them with her memory. But just after the service, being able to be a part of taking home something, I think it helped them process and helped them feel included in a part of what was going on. A lot of how affected by grief a child is going to be, of course, is going to depend upon how close they were to the person that they lost. My daughters, when they were younger, we wanted to make sure that their first experience with death, if we could, was not someone that was really close to them, so that we could kind of have time to explain and they could, you know, emotions wouldn't be so high. And so a neighbor of mine, when I was growing up, that they just kind of knew by name, had passed away. And we decided to take them to the funeral home for visitation at that point. And we weren't, I mean, we were sad, but we weren't as emotionally attached. So we could kind of talk them through all the different aspects of the funeral home and what was going on, so that then when it was someone closer to them, like a grandparent or an aunt, then it wasn't all a shock to them, you know, that they kind of knew a little bit about what a funeral home was, what a funeral session was, and things like that. So that's always very helpful too. And then I know I've had students before who have lost their parents, and that is so tragic. And of course, those children need a lot more than really their grandparents or a parent could give them when it's someone that close. So it's okay to get outside help. I encourage that. They need to be able to talk, and lots of times children won't share with you when they see that you're hurting because they're afraid it will hurt you more, and they don't want to do that to you. So they need someone that they can talk to. And like when my mom passed and I felt like I couldn't answer all the questions or deal with the grief, if you can find someone that you trust that has your same values and belief system, and let the children stay with them for a little bit during visitation times, and they can field some of those questions for you and answer them in a similar way that you would. So that's also very, very helpful. Grief is a part of life. Death hurts. But knowing that God is real and that there is a heaven makes those of us who are believers have a lot more comfort and be able to be a lot more comforted. So just sharing that with our children will also help them. But I think making sure that they know that there's a difference between sleep and death, not hiding your feelings and sharing them openly, and including the children in what's going on. Those are all three really, really important things to do to help them through a death and a grieving process. There's also lots of real good books out there that you can read with them, and definitely do not feel like you have to handle it on your own. It's okay to get help. I encourage you to do that. I hope that you don't have to use any of these tips anytime soon, and that you have a very blessed day. Thanks.